Welcome to the Hypnotic Healers Podcast, your home for insights and insider knowledge about hypnotic change work. With your hosts, control practitioners and hypnotists, Nicole Mazzucato and Anthony Gitch.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Hypnotic Healers. My name is Nicole Mazzucato and I am here with my friend and co-host Anthony Gitch. As usual, our disclaimer, neither Anthony nor I are licensed medical professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists, or anything of the sort, so please do not make any changes or alterations to any medications or treatments you're on based on the conversation you hear here today. Take what you like, leave the rest, and while you're leaving stuff, you can leave us a like, a love, a heart, a thumbs up, drop us a message, say hey, get involved, and share us about. Hello.
Hello, Nicole. It's always good to see you.
I know.
So today we're going to talk about something that has been creating a little bit of controversy in Facebook and around the web, thanks to our good friend Carl Smith from the UK Hypnosis Academy, who likes to who likes to get people thinking. Yeah, well, he does like to stir the pot a little bit, and I kind of appreciate it because it does get people talking. It gets people thinking about what they're doing, and one of the things I get a kick out of it because here are people that are involved in change work. Right, we're all change workers, and the belief structures that they themselves trap themselves into, right, and fight tooth and nail to hold on to, and will just argue it. And it's just like it's in the background. I'm kind of going, "Wow, is it really that important?" But okay, but here it is. Yeah, it is that important to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be as invested in the belief. And it also makes me kind of chuckle because what are the other limiting beliefs that this person who's trying to crush other people's limiting beliefs has? Right. And that's the thing that I find most humorous. It's like, gosh, you are really trapped yourself into this now. And what are your clients doing? How are you helping your clients out of their traps if you're in fact creating this trap for yourself? And that discussion is all around, is there a subconscious mind? Right? Because as hypnotists, we work with beliefs, ideas, behaviors, feelings that all exist where we tell people in the subconscious mind. But here's what everybody needs to understand. It's a theory. It's a model. There has been no empirical evidence ever produced by anybody ever on the history of this planet that the subconscious mind actually exists as a separate form of anything. It is a function of the mind, and the mind itself is not real. The brain is material, meaty, electrical producing stuff, but the mind is ethereal in nature. It doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Or at least that's my belief structure, just based upon what I do with Ayurveda and the way that I look at the mind and the layers of the mind. The mind is not of us, right? Any more than the soul is. The mind is something that helps us to understand and intellectualize the information that is coming through the brain, through the senses.
Okay, so this is quite I think this is a big discussion, and I certainly don't feel educated enough to give a truth on this. And this is a discussion that I was having with somebody recently and something that I'm quite passionate about at the moment. So in terms of whether there is a subconscious mind or not, does it really matter? No. I don't think it does really. And, there is a lot of emphasis put on, the subconscious and the conscious and this, that, and the other. And we do use that as part of our practice to offer the client a way of understanding the work that we're doing, right? It's a concept, an idea, a way of understanding, a way of saying, okay, well, you haven't been able to make these changes because potentially there's this part of your mind that you can't access, or it's difficult for you to access in the state, the conscious state that you're able to access, right? So like we use the ship analogy, the captain and the crew, and that gives a really kind of simple and helpful picture for clients to say, oh, okay, yeah, no, I totally get that. And it gives people comfort as well. It's like, okay, so now I kind of have this concept and this idea that I've got this crew hanging out in my head. I can just go away and chat to them, and I feel comforted. I feel like I've got people, I've got other people inside my head that are, they've got my back in a sense,
my community, my tribe.
Right. Yeah, I've got this community of people, and we're in this together, and we can have a little chat if somebody's playing up. So it's a great analogy, and it really does bring people comfort. And I've had people say to me before, I don't feel alone anymore.
Right. Well, it's like that little Disney show, Inside Out. I don't know if you've ever saw
exactly
it.
that. One of my favorite
analogy.
films.
Yeah.
And I use that analogy a lot. I refer to that film a lot because absolutely, and there used to be a program when I was a kid. Oh, what was it called? Oh, I can't remember what it was called. It was about the body, and it was like all of these little people living in your body, and then they'd like you got a cut, and they'd send like this army of people to go and kind of this army of like,
that's what's happening. What a perfect metaphor for what is taking place, right? I mean,
yeah.
When I'm doing hypnosis with people with injury stuff, that's exactly what we do. Is I want you to sit back and observe all of the little people putting the little construction stuff up and doing all the little work to fix everything, right?
Yeah, all the little lemmings are running to that point in your body, and they've got that job to do. And so, yeah, the analogy is brilliant, and it really helps, I think, and it helps that we're on the same page as our client. It's not helpful for me to enter into a relationship with a client doing this kind of work, and they're thinking, you working off one model and I'm working off of another model, right? Because then we're starting off in a completely different space.
Right.
As long as, okay, look, this is a shared idea that I'm inviting you in to kind of accept as an idea. And if we can work from there, then, we can move forward in that way. Whatever other ways that people need to interpret things, that's fine too, right? And this is the point. This is something that I was getting to before, this idea of truth. And I think, people are so attached to their truth, and it's really kind of ruffling my feathers lately. And I think, I'm actually backing away from people that I've, been following on social media and things like that, or people that I've maybe engaged with in different coaching, kind of as a client myself. When people offer, kind of their ideas as an absolute truth. And it's really irritating me because nobody has an absolute, it might be a truth for you in that moment, but it doesn't mean that it's the truth.
Right.
Right. It's based on your experience in that moment. And it may be that changes for you a little bit down the line. But when somebody's sitting there telling me, no, this is what it's about, and this is it, and, this is how it is, the only thing that's going on in my head is fuck off. I'm really, and I don't mean that. I really don't mean it in a rude way. And I don't mean to kind of deprecate, is that the right word? Or not appreciate other people's experiences and information. But scientists get it wrong all the time, or they put something out as an absolute truth, and then a few years later, oh no, that was wrong. We missed something in the research, or we missed out a group of people, or whatever that was. So it's not
or
that
we
science is
didn't
absolute truth.
A group of people.
Right. So, this experience of life and information and all of this stuff that's being thrown at us and around us, and I think my point is, even anything that I say, don't take it as an absolute truth.
Oh God,
it's just how my experience in this moment, and I can put these words together because this is my collection of thoughts and processes and interpretations based on my experience to this day.
Yep.
And it may be that that's my reality in this moment. It may resonate with you. Amazing. If it resonates with you and it helps you, perfect. Take, as we said at the beginning, take what you like and leave the rest. Yep. Right.
Well, yeah, it's why I like to have conversations like this, though, because when we can create that moment of what the hell did they just say, and why are they it's not even discounting what the other person is saying or believing, right? To me, it's not about that. Like you just said, it's not about not listening to them or depreciating or devaluing what it is they're sharing. But when you come to another understanding that nothing is in stone, then we become more able, I think, to find the truth. The truth with the capital T, right? There's lots of little truths that we all live and go by, but then there are very few big capital T truths. Those are the universal truths, right? We all will die. That is a universal truth. There's no way around that. It's just a fact, right? That's not a little T truth. A little T truth is I'm not going to die today. Right?
Maybe.
Possibly, but you know what I mean? And so
Yeah,
that's how I look at things. And when I hear people arguing, oh, the subconscious does exist, where is it mentioned? Where is it ever mentioned? It's like I get my learnings about the mind and the function of the mind through my education in Ayurveda.
Mm.
Well, Ayurveda is the oldest form of medicine known to man. And I can assure you, in those Ayurvedic texts, nowhere does it mention in the healing of any of the conscious diseases that they talk about anything about the subconscious, right? There's three layers of the mind. There's the inner mind, the outer mind, and the intermediate mind, right? Now, the inner mind is what we would call the subconscious mind, but again, it's very ethereal in nature. It doesn't necessarily exist in any one point in the body. And that's where people, I think, get stuck sometimes, is they need this thing to say that they identify with, right?
And that's okay. That's, look, why are people so faithful to religion? Because they
Right.
need that concept, they need that idea, and for them that's a truth, and that's absolutely
Yes.
fine.
Yeah.
If
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
gives you comfort and support and guidance and whatever, a moral compass, I don't know, whatever that is for you, that's absolutely fine. The same way that if you need to understand the mind in a certain way, and that gives you comfort and support and an easy way to explain things, or to connect with people, or to help people, kind of connect with what they're doing, with what they're engaging in, then that's fine. It's a bit of an irrelevant debate, really. I don't, it's a bit like,
I
when we had
agree.
Tim on here, and I jokingly asked him the question just because I knew it wound him up, what is hypnosis? And he was like, what does it matter?
Right.
And that's it. What does it matter? It's an irrelevant debate whether it exists or not. It's a model.
It's a model. That's all it is. It's a theory. It gives us tiny little insignificant human beings something to grasp a hold of that we think that we can understand, so we can better understand ourselves.
Mm.
I mean, we are all on a search for figuring out who, why, and what we are, right? Some of us are a little bit more dedicated to that search than others, and that's okay. We need everybody. We need everybody to make it all work. But yeah, I thought it was interesting, just this big stir that's going on right now, because Carl had gone to the convention in Ireland, that Jacqueline's just got back from, in fact, and it was, I got several emails. Do you know that Carl Smith guy says that there's no such thing as a subconscious? How can you have him speaking at a hypnosis conference? And I'm like, well, because of this kind of stuff. This is how, right? Let's create this engagement. Let's create this conversation, and let's see where it goes. Because again, like you said, and I agree with you 100%. Who really cares? Is the client being helped? Are clients getting what they need from whatever belief structure that you're helping them buy into?
Right. And look, the point is, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a researcher. I'm not a neuroscientist. And as I said at the beginning of the podcast, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. So I haven't spent 7 years intensively studying the workings of the brain and the mind and whatever that is, so I don't feel educated enough to give a scientific explanation of what the mind is or isn't. I just understand it. I understand it as an experience, right? It's part of this life experience. It's part of the experience of the body, of I don't know, the mind, the soul. I don't have these answers. It's
They're
only
fun to
something.
discuss. I think that
Sure.
this is the thing that's fun, because it's like with me, I've got an education of a few different people whose information resonated with me when I was studying Ayurveda, and those concepts I've grabbed a hold of, and that's what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you're saying, it's are they right or are they wrong? I don't know. There might be an Ayurvedic teacher out there who says, yeah, I don't agree with that Ayurvedic teacher about what they said. And
Yeah.
so, there you have it, right? I mean, my belief structures are based upon the things that work for me.
Right. And even if I had spent, 7, 8 years studying the workings of the mind and whatnot, there's nothing to say that all of that is true either.
Correct.
Again, it's an idea, it's an offering of research, information, who knows
Leeches
what.
used to save people's lives. Remember back when they used to use leeches specifically in medical procedures? They don't do that so much anymore, do they? No, because they figure that shit ain't right. They used to think all sorts of weird shit in the dark ages, what they call the dark ages, about medicine that is no longer true.
But I think, we're also so obsessed with information. We are so obsessed with information because we live in a world where we are completely inundated and oversaturated with information in kind of research forms, in text, in imagery and colors and sounds. We are inundated and we've just become information obsessed. And
Well, I think
go on.
one of the reasons I think we've become information obsessed is because around every single corner, it seems like these days, because of the amount of information and misinformation that is available for people to choose from, everything you say, you've got to be able to validate. Everybody wants a validation for anything it is that you say, and it's because of all of the information and misinformation available. I think that people are more direct at saying, well, prove it.
Right. And that's a really fair point. That's a really fair point. But I think the problem with that is that we lose connection with the experience.
Yes.
When we're so information obsessed and everything has to be proven and everything has to be, look, let me bring up all the research, which can absolutely be manipulated, which can absolutely be incorrect or incomplete, if you like. It can completely be an incomplete picture. And I'm not saying that scientists go out of their way to publish the wrong information.
Oh, I am. I will flat out say that.
Maybe sometimes they do. I don't think every scientist has that intention.
No. What I'm saying about that, when I throw that in there, and I apologize, is the fact that if I pay someone to do research for me, they're going to come up with the information I want them to come up with.
Right. So the point is we lose connection to the experience. And information is great, knowledge is great, learning is great, and the fact that we have access to so many teachings and so many ideas and so many philosophies and other people's thoughts processes through books and media and social media and whatnot is truly, we've never this is the information age, right? As a species, we've never had access to this amount of information from across the world before, but it definitely detracts from your experience, from your own experience, and I think that's where a lot of lack of self-confidence comes from. Low self-esteem, because people don't trust themselves anymore. They don't trust their own experience because we're constantly looking to validate it through somebody else's ideas and somebody else's words.
Yep.
So you have an experience and you're like, well, or a thought, and you're like, well, that's probably not true. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is. Maybe it's true for you in that moment.
Yeah.
Do you really need do you really need to go and find scientific research to back that up for you in that moment? I don't think you do.
Well, no, everybody's, and it's good that we're having this conversation, because I think you're right. I think that people think that they are supposed to be having, well, I mean, wrong you. Yeah. Anyway, okay, go ahead with what you were saying. I don't know how to really kind of put into words what it is that I'm trying to, what is conceptualizing in my mind right now. So
Go on,
go
I'm
ahead.
happy. I'm happy for you to bash it out if you want to.
Well, it's hard to, obviously, with what we do, we are working with people who are struggling with making sense of what's happening in their environment, in their experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when we're able to help people understand that whatever experience they're having, good, bad, whatever it may be, that it is exactly what is supposed to be happening.
Mm.
And that if it was supposed to be any different, it would be. And that once people can accept and get to that point, then they stop fighting. They stop resisting. And it's like Howard said, and it was beautifully done the way he said it. And I know he didn't come up with the concept. He mentioned who the gentleman was who did come up with it, or the idea of it. And even he didn't come up with it. It's always been known that experience times, resistance equals suffering, right? I mean, Buddhists have been saying that forever. But the way that Howard was able to kind of put it succinctly like that, from who he learned it from, I think I think it's a great way now to help. I know with my clients, it's made it easier for me to help them understand that, right? By having that kind of visual that we can use. And I think that the more that we can do things like that, the more we can help people to begin to understand that they are, in fact, responsible for the experiences they're having.
Mm.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. 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 And I think that's the point, isn't it? And it comes back to what we were talking about before. You're having this experience, and you're looking. So hang on, let me try and tie this into what we've been talking about. So a client's having this experience, this unhelpful. I don't like to say negative, right? So I'm talking about an unhelpful experience,
Okay.
right? An experience that's not bringing them
The satisfaction they're looking for whatever reason.
right. Okay, yeah. So is that experience true for them in that moment? There is a truth in that experience that they're having in that moment. And so what are they coming to us for? We're not looking to validate that experience, right? We're looking to help them understand that there are other options around that, right? That there are other possibilities, that's not the one place, that's not the only place.
Right.
Right?
There's many different perspectives of the problem.
Right, exactly. That's it. It's the opening of options. And it's like, oh, okay, I've been stuck in this place, almost like stuck in the corner looking at stuck in the corner looking at that corner, and I haven't been able to see any other part of the room.
Right.
What we're doing then is saying, look, there's a whole other room around you. You can choose any part of that you want to move into.
Right.
And we're here to help you move into a different space, right? By opening that up, opening that possibility up, helping you crack that open. The idea really being that the client has the answers, right?
Always. Yes.
They have the answer. And that's, kind of lots of different people and methodologies that we learn is all 100% reliant on the client finding the answer, the client finding their own options, because oftentimes we put an option in front of the client and they'll be like, yeah, all right. But then they're not going to accept that because that's our option.
Right.
Right. But when you're saying to them, look, find the other options that are available to you, You go out and look for them. Let me know which one, or ones. Or it may not be that you're kind of going to use that word, consciously aware of which option is the right one for you in this moment. And that's fine too. Just let your mind explore, and it will, let it take on the options that it feels are better and more helpful for you.
Yeah. Trust, right? Trust in yourself. And I think that, that in itself is a big challenge for people, because they've made the wrong decisions in the past, or they feel they've made the wrong decisions in the past. And then they no longer trust that little voice inside themselves, because other people have bashed it down. Well, look what you did last time when you did that, and,
right.
Look, well, how can you listen to that? And that can become, that kind of chatter can become overwhelming. It can become oppressive. It can make people do things that they don't want to do. It forces them into living in a survival and a fear mode, right? I mean, yeah. And that, boy, I would do anything I can to get people out of that place, because that is no place to be. That is not, with me, me, I'm like, be bouncy, throw yourself off the freaking cliff. And just make sure you bounce when you hit the bottom, whether it works or not, just bounce. That, I think that's, isn't that the root of most of our issues, is that people stop listening to that inner voice. They stop trusting themselves, and they become afraid.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I think that developed into a much more interesting conversation than is there or isn't there a subconscious mind, because who cares? Really.
Right. I love it. Carl would agree with you. Carl would be hugging you right now, I think. Because, I mean, it's so funny, though, how many hypnotists just were attacking and just being absolutely, rah, there is a subconscious. How could you say that? Rah.
Look, I'm totally happy and open to, research around it. Absolutely. And maybe there is research. Maybe there is scientific research around it. I don't know. Like I say, I don't consider myself scientifically educated enough. I'm not the person that's going and reading a scientific journal every week. Maybe Anthony Jacquin is the person to have that conversation with, because he does. He's extremely well read, extremely. And every week he shares an article from a scientific journal on hypnosis. So I would say, from the people that I know, he's potentially the best person to have this conversation with. But as it stands, I don't know. And it doesn't
You don't care.
And I don't feel that it matters. Maybe it matters to you, and I absolutely respect that, because potentially that's been folded in as the foundations of what you do. But I don't know, at the end of the day, is that really important to your client? It's like we were talking in the last episode about business building. Nobody that's following you cares what method you've trained in. Nobody.
Right.
Nobody's
they don't care about the certificates on the wall. They give a shit less.
They don't care. All they care about is the fact that they can connect with you. They feel like you're going to be able to help them, and that they can trust you. So I don't know why I went that way, but I can't remember where my thought process was going there. The point
being, followed the trail perfectly.
Right. The point being, the subconscious mind, no subconscious mind. I don't think the majority of your clients are not that concerned about it. They're just concerned that you can help them out of this. I can't remember the word. Lost my words.
Challenge.
Out of the challenge. I was thinking of a different word, but I can't come up with it now.
Well, that's okay.
Anyway.
Because you know what? Maybe next time we'll talk about, is there a conscious mind?
It's going to be them.
Is there a mind at all? Are we simply a program running in someone else's computer?
There you go.
Are we just so, AI? Why does everything taste like chicken? I love you, sweetheart. We'll talk to you again soon.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for joining. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Hypnotic Healers Podcast. Don't forget to leave us a review and follow us on Facebook. You can also join our mailing list at hypnotichealers.com.